Welcome to Life on Maui. I'm your host, Stephen Freid. My guest for today is Izaak Tyrrell, General Manager of Upcountry Fitness and Haiku. I haven't spent much time in a gym, and I was surprised how interesting this is for me, how much there is to know about the subject. Izaak is running a unique facility in Haiku with a wonderful philosophy on fitness. Welcome to the show, Izaak.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's wonderful that you're here. And I want to talk about your approach. Your interest is in holistic, total body approach. Speak about what that means to you.
Well, I mean, it's in the word, it's the whole, like the whole body. The whole body is one unit, and you can't break it up in little pieces. And there's no isolations to it. And so when somebody comes our way, we approach them as a one big unit. It's like, what's going on in your total body? And then we find all their weaknesses out, and it's usually structural and some kind of muscle tensions and stuff like that. But we do a full assessment of everybody, and then we help them create a foundation. And you can't really get anywhere unless you have a nice solid foundation, and then. Yeah. And that's what we create, and then from there, skies are the limits.
And one of the things you said to me early on was you gave the architectural example, that you start at the base and you work up, whether you're building a skyscraper or a Quonset hut.
Yeah.
And I love that. So how do you see that?
And what you do is you find somebody's, I teach people all the time, it's like building a house, right? Or doesn't matter what it is, you still have to lay out the ground, you still have to lay out the cement, you still have to make it solid. And as long as your foundation's solid, and that's, your structural, your posture, everything's firing, working, the muscles are all working together, you can build whatever you want on it. And people come in to say, I want to lose weight, and I want to get huge, and I want to run fast, and I want to look good, and all these things. It doesn't matter who you are, any one of those people, you still have to have that same foundation. And for us, and when we work with people, it's like, okay, no matter what you want to do, you got to create that foundation first. And that's the first step, is get to that foundation.
And it's very important for you to make the body as functional as possible.
Exactly. And that's the thing in today's industry, I would say, it's small percentage of bodybuilders, small percentage of extreme athletes. There's a huge percentage of just general population. Even more, say baby boomers or those kind of people. People just want to live their life pain-free, get up every day, participate in something, and feel good about it. And so that's what we work with. We work with everybody, but that's our focus, is to focus on giving everybody that physical freedom that they're all looking for.
It's a wonderful thing. And for me, this is very personal. For me, it's about posture, tune-up, and also, and I said this to you early on, and you brought it right back, you're not into creating gym rats.
No.
You want to create it so that people, whatever you're doing, people can take out onto whatever they do in life, whether it's stand-up paddleboarding or surfing or whatever. So this is the beginning of a relationship with you and I. So we're introducing through the show, and people know about your facility because people have been raving to me about it. So when I became introduced to it, I had heard about it. But we're beginning a 12-week program, you and I.
Yes, we are. And
I'm going to come back with you on this show in 12 weeks, and we're going to talk about the whole process.
The journey.
The journey. So I'm very excited about this. We mentioned this a little bit earlier, but the foundation, and you're saying that this approach is relatively new, 10 years old,
Yeah, it's really new, the concept of training. There's a lot of industries out there. For me personally, we kind of follow the National Academy of Sports Medicine. We also, everybody studies a little bit. I study.
What is it? What is the National Academy?
National Academy of Sports Medicine is it's an institute that certifies personal trainers. And so there's a whole bunch of them out there of different qualities. And we use that one because they have a really good approach. You know, they're all about the foundation and creating that and learning how to assess people and how to create, you know, fix their imbalances and stuff. There's other people out there. For me personally, I studied a lot of Paul Chek when I first got into training. So, and he's got a different approach though, but still working on the core, stabilizing the spine, you know. And that's a big thing in the industry now. It's core, everything. And a lot of people associate core with abs and six packs. And really, you know, you go and think of core. Core is like everything that wraps around your spine. I mean, the stronger your spine is, the stronger everything else is going to be. And more aligned properly, you know, from a chiropractic level to just, you know, posture. And so what we do is we use, you know, natural kind of sports medicine is like our foundation. But every one of our trainers, including myself, for me, it's really, I've worked with literally 1,000+ clients in my career of almost 10 years. And once you start working with so many different people and you start helping people in new issues and you know, you basically, in a way, fix a lot of people, you learn categories of different people. Like a lot of people sit down too much. Pretty much all of us sit down too much. So they develop the same patterns, you know, so they go into the, you know, the sit down too much people. Then some people shift to one side to another side, so you have to correct that. And then so you have a kind of a category, so when somebody comes in, you can just assess their bodies just by visually, you know, structurally looking at them and the way they move, kind of like when I worked with you. And then sometimes you get a new case that comes about your way. And when you get that new case, it's kind of like, okay, cool, now I get to go back to the books and I get the research and how am I going to help this person? And that's you know, that's fun, that's stimulating, but it's good to be able to help that general population. You know, there's a lot of specialties, but most of us fit in a couple of those different categories and we can pretty much help everybody.
Yeah, and it's interesting because my hair cutter always says to me, I don't have to remember what you particularly want because I know how I like to cut that type of hair. So you probably, like you're just saying, there's certain generalities. You can look at somebody and know what issues to address in them.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, my experience with you is one of being very personal. Mm-hmm. You know, you remember specific details, and when I come in with you, I feel like you push the edge, but not too hard. Because I know for me, don't have that much experience, but I know when I've been pushed too much, sometimes I don't progress well. And I feel like you've been pushing my edge. And just in the few sessions I've had with you, I feel like there's really been progress.
Yeah, there's been a lot of progress. And for me, and when you work with people in any industry, I think, you have to really learn about that person and, you know, kind of tap into them intuitively, if you want to say. Mm-hmm. But find out what makes them drive, what drives them, you know. And you can't push them too hard because they're going to push back and then they're not going to do it, you know. A lot of trainers, you know, there's out there in the world, it's like, you know, drill instructors and boot camp and, you know, militant kind of, you know, push people and make them do things they can't do. For me, I like to have people do things that they never thought they could do, but do them without being pushed. Do them by they wanted to do them. But giving them that ability, and it's always, I call it piggybacking. You know, you're always going to take some simple, basic exercise, and it's going to be very challenging in the beginning for that person because they're weak in that area, and that's why we're doing the exercise. But then once that one gets better, you can do the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And sometimes I like to kind of jump ahead in the future, and I'll say, you know what, someday you're going to do this exercise. And I'll show it to them, and they're going to look at me crazy, and they're like, there's no way I can do that. And then their best gratification as a trainer, I believe, is, you know, the day they do that exercise, and it always happens. And then they don't remember that conversation very well, and you kind of have to remind them. And then you remind them about that conversation, and they're like, oh, yeah, you know, yeah. And
that happened for me already.
Yep.
Which was very cool, just in 2 weeks. From, you know, so that's very cool. You talked about your 10-year kind of history with this. Talk a little bit about, you used to, obviously you didn't always have your own facility. No. So you used to work elsewhere. And then there's I love the story about how you came to this facility, and you take it.
Well, I started about 10 years ago, and I'm kind of a turning point in my life where I was in a lot of trouble, you know, honestly just coming straight out of jail from doing a lot of drugs, and I needed a clean slate. And so I went to live with my big sister for a while. I lived in Northern California, and she got me a job at the local gym there, and I was working behind the counter, you know, checking people in, 6 o'clock in the morning shift, and I started training with a trainer there. And she started working with me, and she's like, you're going to be a great trainer someday. And I'm like, whatever, I just want to get ripped like everybody else. And so we started getting to have a good relationship, and she started teaching me her ways that she learned, and that's who introduced me to Paul Chek, and I started studying that. And
who's this fella?
his name is Paul Chek. He has his own training institute, just like NACM, the Chek Institute.